The art that I have on display today is a series that I've done that all the backgrounds will have similar color schemes, but they all have a sun that's represented in them. So a different version of the sun drawn in each one. And also there's some traditional Japanese art from Gifu, Japan. I lived in New York City in the 80s, so I was immersed in hip hop culture. But before I moved to New York, I was born in Dayton, and I got to study T-bori tattoo, which is traditional Japanese tattooing. So my art sort of encompasses both of those. That's sort of the basis of it. My parents met at Central State University, which I also graduated from. My father's from Nigeria. He was Nigerian royalty, and my mother's from Dayton, Ohio. Her father was the second black pharmacist in the city of Dayton. So the first one to open a pharmacy on the west side. He was a 33rd degree Mason, so I was immersed in both of those cultures growing up. I've lived Indiana for high school, New York, Atlanta, stayed in LA for a little while. Chicago spent some time in Chicago, so yeah, I've been around. The Dayton art scene, not during COVID times, is pretty much centered around First Fridays. That's when there's an art hop in all of the art districts. They're getting ready to re-amp back up a bus service that will transport you around to each one after COVID. So that's what's going on in the art scene right now in Dayton. This is my first time doing the show in Springboro. So it's giving me more exposure, getting me out of the Dayton area and helping me expand my horizons. Being here for Black History Month, it's always good to be doing something momentous, not stagnating, especially during COVID. I don't have my mask on right now, but everybody is covering and worried about their health or their loved one's health. So it feels good to be involved in something that can be viewed online or on TV that's still happening for the people. Next on my agenda is creating more art. That's pretty much a 24/7 thing. The graffiti art is based on the culture of doing street maps or subway maps, and you do your tag or your handle on subway maps and sell those to make money in New York City. Since we don't have subways in Dayton, Ohio, I've been doing lottery tickets and bus maps because we have buses, and I used to run lottery numbers when I was a little kid for folks. Then the old Masters recreation shirts, I was involved in the show with Laura Kirkpatrick from America's Top Model, and I designed those shirts to be in the show for B. Marie Fashions a little while back. So those are what those shirts were initially designed for. But I started and enjoyed doing old Masters recreations and oil on canvas as well. So it was sort of a segue that I was asked to do by B. Marie Fashions. If you want to get a hold of me or see more of my work, you can go to Instagram at IamTM1. That's my art Instagram. And I'm revamping my website right now, so it's not up. I'm been busy creating art, so I didn't get a chance to get to the website right now. But also my name is Simeon Oyeyemi on Facebook, so you can find me there. Live life, enjoy art, and be blessed.
I am actually from a family of artists back in St. Louis. We all create art. We actually had a family show about 2 years ago where we had all our art together for the first time. And my sister and I are professional artists. She's an artist back in St. Louis. She goes by Taylor the Mirror. She's really good. She does more portraits, faces, figurative work, and I go to more natural things. This is from my main body of work here. I like to play with the connection of humanity and nature, and I like to depict botanicals attached to human figures. Usually I use androgynous black or brown figures just to stand for humanity as a whole. And so I like to have them attached to them to show that it's still always part of us and that it will never leave us no matter how much humanity tries to separate ourselves from it. Both my parents really, they kind of instilled in us a love of art at a very young age. They would take us to museums a lot. My mom would teach us how to paint. She would show us how to use pastels and things. I hated it at first, I remember that, but now I can't thank her enough, because that's a pastel there, and it's one of my favorite mediums to work with. And it was really no surprise that I wanted to become an artist and go to art school. I have a bachelor's degree in studio art from Webster University. I have emphasis in drawing, art history, and I have a little bit of a graphic design background too, but my emphasis is mostly drawing. Well, my next project is another body of work that is similar to my work here, but a little bit different. I'm trying to kind of explore more of the connection between humanity and nature without being so literal. I'm using circuits and technology and pairing them with the botanicals, because technology is a very human thing, and to pair it with natural objects like flowers and leaves and things like that, and kind of integrate them to show our hands, sort of basically our imprint onto nature. And it shows kind of my idea of our connection is still there as part of nature, and are we adding to it? Are we helping it? Are we hurting it? What is it doing to the plants? That's my take on it. Well, you can follow me on Instagram at Cydnie_LD_King. And then I also have a website too. There's a link for that on the Instagram. And then I also have some on my Facebook page too. My Facebook page is just my personal page. It's Cydnie King, hyphened in between. My inspiration comes from everything around me. I'm drawn to bright colors, even in the winter. They make me happy. I love saturating papers with colors. I want people to stop and stare at that, because it calls your attention with the bright colors. I also teach art to toddlers too, at some of the Montessori schools in the area. So what I like to do is I like to give them the materials and kind of just let them explore with it, and understand that it will be messy, and that's just part of it, because that's how they learn. I work at an art gallery in downtown Dayton. So I work at the Contemporary Dayton. And so we get a lot of artists from Springboro and from all over the Dayton area coming in to show art with us.
I started with acrylic paints about 3 years ago. A little bit over 3 years ago, my husband passed. And about 8 months after he passed, somebody suggested painting. Never been in painting, even though I watched my mom. I watched some YouTubes with pours, control pours, and that's how I started. And it helped out a great deal. I was able to express through colors I chose to express how I felt at that moment. My mom, up till she had a stroke about 5 years ago, she used to do ceramics. She's very talented. I used to like unicorns, and her talent was she painted one for me, and I thought it was a stuffed animal, and it was actually ceramic. The way she painted it, I thought it was fabric. Yeah. I was at a event at Front Street, and a young lady was telling us about a grant she took and what experience she had when she was there. I can't remember what country she was in. And Richard, who was the manager at Front Street, wife had a necklace on that was interesting to me. So I took a picture of it, and I told her someday I'm going to paint something similar to it, and this is what I came up with. It actually should have been bigger, but yeah, that's what I came up with. It basically was inspired by her necklace that she wore that day. I originally started with 16 by 20s, and then we had a showing at the Schultzer Center, and Mike from Front Street suggested I start large, and ever since then, been doing large pieces, or I prefer small pieces, but several canvases instead of one large piece. I usually don't talk about my pieces or show them but Julie Riley suggested, so here I am. But yes, I'm very thankful, yeah. Currently I'm working on, it's still but it has something to do with vinyl records, and it's really, really large, and it's going to take me a while to do it, but it has something to do with vinyl records. To see more of my work is at Cydnie Adams Art on Instagram or Cydnie Adams Art on Facebook, or visit Front Street. I have no formal training. Basically, I get inspiration from anything. It can be from the cloud shape or a pattern in a rug. I believe every painting has a owner. They may or may not find it. And I do believe that anything that you make is art. I just do. Yeah, anything.
So the art that I brought is, I have a couple different series of things that I work on. Sometimes I work on what's called my Heritage series, which is actually spelled heritage. But this time I decided to bring, I did bring a couple of pieces that are kind of similar, but these pieces are more of my still life studies, with the exception of that one up there, which I actually took from an image, but these were all set up by me. And they, upon looking at them, most people assume that they're traditionally done by a non-Black artist, but I'm actually a classically trained Black artist, and I just kind of want to spread the awareness by displaying work that doesn't necessarily scream or yell Blackness to it, but in a way it kind of does, because if you look deeper and decide to figure out who the artist is, then it starts to beg and ask more questions, and that's kind of what I'm going for when I display pieces like these. Well, I'm from Columbus, so I would say that I've been an artist as long as I've known. I didn't really have any extreme experience before I decided to draw. It's just one day my parents noticed, okay, she can draw, let's maybe ask around, see who we can talk to about getting her more immersed in it. And the Columbus College of Art and Design, I don't know if they still do this, I need to investigate, but they used to have Saturday morning art classes, and one day I went and they had this set up so you can win a scholarship possibly to be accepted to have Saturday morning art lessons. And so I went, and next thing I know, I got a letter in the mail, and my parents read it to me and told me that I had received a scholarship to attend the Saturday morning art lessons, which were for children. So at the time, I believe I was 8, and then 9 the second time around. That was the last time I think I did it, 9 or 10. So that was kind of like my first experience with being formally trained, in a sense. And then after a while, I just kind of kept it up on my own. My parents kept buying me art supplies for Christmas, art supplies for my birthday. I never complained. And then in high school, I had an art teacher she's still alive, of course, Lynn Perlman Muse. She was my primary art teacher that used to give me additional projects outside of everyone else. So at the time I thought I was being punished, but not so. She was prepping me, and I appreciate her for it. By the time I got to Central State University in 2003, it was my first time being immersed in an all-Black fine art faculty, just all Black professors. It was positively overwhelming. They were really great, and when it was time for me to graduate and move on to graduate school, I was very prepared. I was also very young. When I went into the program, I was the youngest and the only Black female at the time, one of 2 Black people. So it was awkward at times, but they really prepped me in a great way, so I was able to handle my own. And you know, it was some positive and some negative experiences, but overall a very enriching experience being in both undergrad and graduate school. And it was also kind of a stepping stone to Italy as well. Even when I was really young, I always was interested in just the arts and just foreign language and diversity, diverse cultures and things of that nature. And I was always really interested in French and Italian and, well, in multiple cultures as well. But I remember I really wanted to go see places like where Da Vinci and Michelangelo were, and so I found out that University of Cincinnati had a study abroad program, and so I took the course, and at the end of that course we went to Italy for 2 weeks. That was kind of like a final exam, best final exam ever. It was great, it changed my whole life. It was culture shock in many ways, but it was a very worthwhile experience, and now I'm currently in the process of taking students myself. We were actually supposed to be there in May of 2020, but COVID happened. So but we're reviving the program so we can possibly go in spring of 22. So I'm really excited about that. Central State University, my alma mater, class of 2007, and I've been there since 2010 teaching now. So it's been really extraordinary. It's been like, in a way, like being home again, and I just feel like I'm learning continuously, and I'm lucky to say that I'm appreciating my position there more and more. Some people, they kind of start off excited and they get to a decline, but I started off kind of young, so I started off more with like a look of shock on my face for a while, because I was 25, and I was just really trying to do my best, but I've learned so much since then that it's just been feeding me just as much as it has them, enriching me just as much as it has the students, and I'm really thankful for that. The fact that I've never really stopped learning, I never really understood what that meant until I graduated. As soon as I graduated, it made sense. Okay, yeah, I'm still learning, I'm still researching, I'm still growing, things are changing. Even some series like The Heritage that I've been working on since graduate school, I work on, but now with fresh eyes, fresh perspective, more research. Times have changed, attitudes and political climates have shifted a bit, and so I guess that's also part of the inspiration, is just fulfilling the responsibility that people like Nina Simone said, how can you be a person of the times and not document it? How can you call yourself an artist if you are not documenting what's going on currently in the world? And so that's inspiration, teaching students what it means to actually be an artist while you're a student as well, and what all that means for them. For me, my parents were nurturing because I was going to do it anyway. And so when you're an Aries rebel like me, people can only say no for so long until you just decide to do whatever is on your heart, for real. My parents never really, there were other things that they say, like, oh, this is so interesting over here. And I'm like, it sure is, but look at what I got going over here on this easel, And then I guess when you're a person that always took it seriously, even at a young age, I was 11 when I sold my first artwork, and that it just became addictive after that, and then I sold a second, and then a third, and then I just kept doing that, and then my mother taught me knitting and crochet, so that became an additional art form. So I'm a fine artist, both a fine artist and an artisan, and so I take the craft side of it really just as seriously as I take the formal side of it, and I think that they both serve unique and equally pertinent purposes. I don't really see one being higher than the other, but that's kind of where the scarving artist came from, was from me nurturing the craft of crochet in my work and making it unique and kind of reviving it in a sense where it was like not your grandmother's crochet, at all. So that's what makes that really fun and unique. People respond pretty well to it, yeah. Today, because it's my mother's birthday, I decided I'll do a live demonstration on Facebook. I don't do them as much as I used to, simply because I'm back teaching full time. I have 3 children, they gotta get their stuff together. They're in sports, they have their own agenda as well. But I decided I'm gonna pause and take the time tonight at 9 p.m., February 13th, 2021, to do a live portrait demonstration. And when I do those, I make them so that people can join in and feel laid back, not like I'm saying, okay, gather all your supplies. Really, they're just kind of watching and learning, but they can also press repeat and pick up on the things that I did. So I'm not so much teaching, so much as I'm kind of just openly discussing while creating. The wine is there, the snacks are there, the candles are there. And then I tell people, ask me anything. This is a time where you can ask me things while I'm doing live demonstrations. That's just something I kind of like to do for the public. I started really doing it a lot at the start of the pandemic because people were out of their minds, not sure what to do with their time. And so I just started doing things and posting it. Look, you can do this, you can do that. You can take some inspiration, pull from what I'm doing. You don't have to do what I'm doing, but maybe you can be inspired by this because, while everybody's locked up fiddling away their fingers and stuff, I actually completed this piece under quarantine. It was one of the first pieces. I did quite a few when quarantine first happened. While everyone was stocking up on toilet paper, I ran over to the art store, which was very empty and barren, and I was just freely walking through there, stocking up on my art supplies and happily creating, because, you know, again, that's a responsibility. Just because things are going crazy around you, that's not really an excuse to abandon your responsibilities, you know, especially as an artist. We're documenting the times, and not so much because we want to, you know, it's a call for duty in a sense. Etsy.com is where the Scarvin Artist is. That's the Scarvin Artist, and I can spell that as THESCARVIN Artist. Okay, the Scarvin Artist on Etsy. I'm on Instagram. Instagram is fun actually, and I also have a hair page that's just dedicated to my hair journey on Instagram, because hair shows up a lot in my work, a whole lot. And so and the two pieces I have over there, the Hands Up, Don't Shoot, that's more of a protest piece that I actually did in response to the Oregon District shootings in 2019. And then also there's a tribute piece, because often I'll do tribute pieces for maybe some favorite people, celebrities, on their birthdays. And so I did one from a classic film called Love and Basketball. And the name of the piece is called Monica and Quincy's Love Scene. So I really like those. Being a part of this show, I find that it's really important to have it here. I'm not sure what the social and diversity climate is like here. I've been to Springboro before being here, and I can say that when I'm here, I feel like I am the piece of diversity here. And so what I'm hoping for is that people will maybe be more in tune and stop thinking that what they see is what there is, and that's it. You know, I tell my students this all the time is, you know, beg to look beneath the surface, deeper than what you see on the surface, because there's more there. And many times what you find beneath the surface has nothing to do with what's on the surface. On the surface, this is just art, but looking deeper, you'll know that this still life here was set up on Central State's campus using all the tools that are in the drawing and painting studio. And one day I walked in and I looked over and it was set up perfectly, and I said, that's it. I'm just gonna do it like that. And so this is a chalk pastel study. This is actually a piece that I did. I took this image in Fairborn, you know, so looking at it, people will say, it's a sunset. But actually this is a piece called Hawk Sky. I was at one of my son's football practices, and we all were looking up at the most wonderful sunset. And I thought, well, that'd be fun to draw. I've always wanted to draw a sunset. And then this piece here is called Quaranteenth, because I don't even remember what day we were on by then. And the kind of claustrophobic, stuffy, congested nature of it really kind of speaks to what everyone was physically feeling at the time. But if you're looking at it, it's a still life, you know? What I want people to gather is look beneath the surface. Don't just see a problem as a problem and decide, well, it's not my problem, so I don't have to deal with it. It is your problem, even in an underlying sense, you know, just more awareness of everyone around you, taking more of an interest in other people than in yourself, because a lot of this hatred is really just based in selfishness, you know, and you know, hate, it really is nothing more than wounded love anyway. So that's what I really want people to see, is that hatred, again, in a sense, it's just love that's been wounded. So healing those wounds through art, through unsuspecting art, you know, because I think this is a really great show, and what you guys are doing here is going to be, I think, greater for the community than it's actually going to be for the artist. So I'm hoping that's what, you know, this will do, is just force people to wake up.
Black History Month from the Performing Arts Center in Springboro, Ohio. What a place to be celebrating Black history. I'd like to talk about Black in general. There's Black magic. Let me see. There's Black tea. There's Black powder. There's Black power. There's Black Lives Matter. But I'm gonna talk to you about Maximum Black, D-Max. These are photography terms. And what I want to show you why I chose these images is because the Black and the relationship with Black history. It takes a very use of consistent techniques to get this type of black. I mean, the blackest of black. That's why we call it maximum black. Now, I could go into another hour talking about how you achieve that, but we don't have the time for that today. But I do want to talk about Black history and maximum black. Now, we have on two ends of the scales, we have maximum black, which is the black you create on the paper surface, and we have white, paper-based white. So between the spectrums, you have the purest of white, and you have the deepest of blacks. Real quick, in maximum black, which is called speed point or threshold, you create the deepest, darkest, like a black cat in a coal mine. Now that's an interesting concept. Think of a black cat in a coal mine. And for white, think about a snowman in a snowfield, okay? And that's what you try to achieve in a total range of a black and white image, so that you have a continuous, even range of tones, which Ansel Adams called the zone system. And I studied under Ansel, and I studied his technique, and I perfected his theories. And what I would like for you to know today is that in these images, you have a series of tones from 1 to 10, with the blackest of black and the purest of white. I went to the Art Institute of Photography in Atlanta, Georgia, but I was in the military, and that's where it all started. I picked up photography when I was in the military in 75 through 79, as something to do in my spare time to keep me occupied while I wasn't in training. And at that time, they had very nice craft shops that I could go to on the weekend and my time off, and, you know, dabble and study and get involved with a craft that I continue to do for the rest of my life. And one thing that was really important, this all happened when I was in South Korea. I was stationed over in South Korea. And to make a long story short, I took leave and went to Japan and bought my first camera in Tokyo, which was a 35 millimeter Context RTS. The work we have on display today is 4x5 by nature. When I say that, the film size is 4 by 5 inches. The film is Tri-X black and white film shot at ASA 200. So when we talk about 4x5 and the way that the tool that I took the picture, we're talking about large format, which is considered a very large camera, and most of us would think that that would be the camera where you take the dark sheet and you get up under it and you have all the controls in a box-like camera in front of you. And the other interesting thing about the format and the camera is that when you're looking at the image, in other words, these bonsais, the image is upside down in the camera. So you're really looking at a total image that is presented to you upside down, and it's really like you're having to work upside down. So it takes a little time to get used to it, but these are the type of cameras that were used when 150 years or so ago, when photography first was invented. There are three important things about photography: the camera, the process, the film, and then the final product, which is the print. So the camera basically operates on a bellows, which is a kind of black screen that goes in and out like a harmonica. And that's how you focus the camera. And then with the type of 4x5 camera, you have shifts and you have tilts. So you have a whole lot of things going on while you're trying to work with the camera, looking at the image upside down. So basically, what I'll be talking about today in technique will be about photography that was. It's still being used, but it's not as popular because of the shortage of film these days, and chemicals and the things that were readily available when I was doing photography in mainstream. Now we've moved into subject. And so in your mind's eye, or in your thinking, your pre-visualization, that's a very good word, pre-visualization. You see something and you have an idea in your mind what you would like for it to be. And then you go about choosing the tools and the resources to make the image in your mind a reality. Okay? So the subject, bonsai, was not really bonsai. I saw it as portraiture. So I set out to do a formal portrait, and I treated the bonsai, the trees, as if they were actually people. And so all the techniques that went into taking the photograph were about a portraiture. And I saw the trees as people, and I went about my business as treating them as people, i.e., lighting, the position, the contrast, the depth, and so forth and so on. You know, when you find something you really love And that's what I would like to encourage anyone seeing this today, is to find a love and find a true love. And then you'll know when you've found it, and then take it to the extreme. Put your whole heart and soul into it. And that's what I did with photography. It was like I found what I was meant to do on this earth. And from that point on, it was very easy to continue it because it was just like a path. I got on this path, and I knew it was a path that was going to be a lifelong journey, and I stayed on it, and here I am today, 2021, February 13th, my father's birthday. So I'm living here in Springboro, and I don't have any rhyme or reason why I would be here other than the path that I was speaking to. And being a part of this community has been truly fascinating. And I've only been a part of it for 1 year, but it is so enriched with history and culture that I've been around the world several times and have lived several places. But this community has something that is like a force that kind of sucks you or pulls you or makes you want to experience it. And I just let that force work within me, and it's been truly a blessing because this is my second show in less than a year, because I was part of the inaugural show here. And so, you know, I know that Springboro is a light for me, and I'm just taking the light to dark places. I have a vault. I have a vault where I decided to put all of my work and all of my negatives and store them for the next generation. And this vault is a walk-in vault in Augusta, Georgia, which is under very high security. And I'm to the point after 40 plus years of doing photography that I let the photography come to me, just like the show came to me. I didn't ask to be in the show. The show presented itself to me, and I took advantage of it. So I'm not really out like an emerging artist trying to create bodies of work, trying to make a name for myself. I'm just kind of, you know, in retirement. I've done my work, I've run a good race, and I know my work will be preserved and it will be shown in future generations. So I'm okay with that, and I'm doing enough photography at this point in my life that I'm satisfied with who I am and where I'm going.